Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. Got a great show for you this last Thursday, I guess, of July. We're winding down another month, as I said last week. We're getting very, very close. August, of course, is next Tuesday. August 1st is next Tuesday, I believe. And the summer, I don't know where it's going, but it's just zipping by real fast. But anyways, glad you could join us tonight. Got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be starting off here once again, of course, with a great Coaches Corner panel. I'm going to bring my special guest tonight on the panel on board here in just a moment. And then a little bit later in the broadcast, I'm going to be joined by the team, and I say team because I believe there's 8 of them, from the Sports Science Lab up in New York. They're going to be joining me on the second half of the show, so you'll have to make sure you stick around for that. But for those of you joining me for the first time, welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, just to remind everybody, if you go to blogtalkradio.com, and just type in Golf Talk Live up in the search key, that will take you to the main page. And we are live Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. But for some reason, if you can't join us live, not to worry, just go to that link at any point after the show, and you can just scroll down to the on-demand section, and you'll find all of the shows, including tonight's show, at your leisure, and you can listen to them whenever it's convenient for you. You can also tune in to iTunes.com or Stitcher.com, and just under the podcast section, just again type in Golf Talk Live, and that will take you there as well. Always would love to hear from you. You're welcome to call in during the live broadcast from 6 to 8 on Thursdays. The number to call is area code 646-716-4667, or you can email any questions or comments to me personally, and my email address, of course, is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Always update, of course, on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, and on Twitter. My Twitter handle, is Ted and Buck CEO, and that's CEO in capital letters. So make sure you follow on social media as well. And again, thank you for joining us tonight on the show. It's going to be an interesting show. We've got a great panel coming on. Clint Wright, Katherine Roberts, and Jon Decker are going to be the panelists tonight. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of them, and I'm going to bring them on the show. Clint Wright, of course, has been on the panel many, many times. He's a 30-year member of the PGA, partner at TGM Golf, and a big proponent of the R3 approach. In my opinion, one of the best covering the short game today, plus one of my favorite guests and panelists here in the Coach's Corner. That may change tonight. I'm going to wait and see how he does tonight. That may change, but we'll see how it goes. Katherine Roberts, of course, has been a featured guest, as well as has been joining in a number of panel discussions as well on the Coach's Corner. And she's the founder and president of Yoga for Golfers, founder and president of Roberts Yoga for Baseball, Roberts Kinetic Yoga for Sports. She's a certified yoga instructor for 20-plus years, TPI, and also NG360 certified, educated in PRI, Nike Swoosh Elite Athlete, and an advisory staff member for the Gray Institute Fellow. Also applied functional science and chain reaction biomechanics. And certainly last but not least, rounding out the panel, also been on as a featured guest and also on the panel a number of times as well. And he's fast becoming one of my favorites, Jon Decker. He's the author for the book Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, motivational speaker for Celebrate Sports Tour Foundation. He was the former director of instruction for the new Albany Country Club up in Ohio, and also head instructor for the Grand Cypress Academy of Golf down in Florida. Guys, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, I hope I got everything correct, and I apologize for sort of rushing through a lot of that. Just you guys have got so many great accolades, it's hard to read them all out and still leave some time for the discussion. but you guys are definitely tops, and thanks for, as I always said off air, thank you for joining me tonight on the show. I know it's not always easy to giving of your time, but I appreciate it very much. Guys, what we're going to talk about tonight, as I alluded to a little bit off air, is we're going to talk or tackle, if you will, 3 player types. We're going to talk about a junior player, a new golfer, and a senior golfer who's left the game but considering returning to the game, and we're going to see if we can help any of those that fall into those categories here on the program tonight. So we're going to start, and I've assigned names. Now, these are not, I'm just going to clarify this or preface this to everybody. These are not actual, I did take them from actual people, but they're just sort of generic scenarios, but they will play out, and you'll understand as we go through the process here. So I've assigned them all names just for the sake of keeping things straight in our heads. So if you need to write them down, guys, just to keep everything straight, that's fine. Our first scenario is Brent. He's a junior golfer, like so many junior golfers out there. He's about 12 years old, pretty athletic, played several sports, but fairly new to golf. He's played, of course, a little bit with his dad over the years, but yet struggles, obviously, with consistency because he hasn't played very long. His tendency when he does get out there and hit a bad shot tends to be a slice, which is pretty common particularly for right-handed golfers, which he is. Short game obviously needs some work, but he has an interest just because he is an athletic type person, maybe in competing at some point as he gets a little bit older. So lessons are definitely a must for improvement, but he doesn't know where to start. And I know there's a lot of juniors out there that probably fall into that category that maybe have had some exposure, maybe not a lot quite yet, but they don't know what to do, where to go. And as we all know, it's not always it's good sometimes to get a little bit of coaching from dad or somebody else in the family, but when it really counts, you need to go to a professional. So that's what we're doing here tonight. So, John, I'm going to start with you. And, John,
Sure.
What I'd like for you to do, if you can, for Brent, our fictitious junior golfer tonight, I want you to maybe sort of create a lesson plan that's going to help generate the skills that are going to be necessary. But most importantly, we want to keep him motivated and challenged throughout the process. So what are some things that you want to do first and foremost to start working with a player like Brent?
Well, Ted, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I assume that I'm only tackling the full swing, or am I tackling, when you talk about a plan,
yeah.
Are you talking about just the full swing?
Well, you
Okay.
can certainly do an overall, but as I mentioned off here, I'm going to let Clint sort of handle the short game area.
Sure.
So yeah, basically the full swing and maybe just some practice ideas, that sort of thing. Sure.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, it sounds like he's pretty athletic. The fact that he plays baseball
Yes.
and other sports, and that's one of the first things I would want to do. Is normally when I work with any student, whether it's a junior or an adult, is I find out what kind of sports they play, what their hand-eye coordination, things like that. Just basically their background. The fact that he has a slice tells me that there is something wrong in his grip. So the first thing that I would do in laying out a lesson plan with him is I would explain to him that before we can tackle the golf swing, we've got to tackle the grip. So I would most likely go over and lay that out and how to hold the club properly. I would probably use a little bit of video. I look at video as maybe 15 minutes of an hour lesson at most. I don't sit there and video every single swing because I am much more into drills and things that are going to, give him the ability to hit a lot of shots and be able to work on it and kind of through repetition instead of just standing there and me pointing out everything that's wrong in his golf swing. And then, with the lesson plan, I would want to obviously see how the first lesson goes before I laid out the rest of it. But one of the first things I would want him to do is if he is hitting a slice, I want to see his golf ball go where his swing is going. So he is most likely swinging from outside to in, which means once I fix the grip, his ball is going to be a pull. And it might take him one swing, it might take him 50 swings, but eventually he is going to start hitting a pull. And once he does that, then I can start changing his swing and start changing his alignment. But with it being a slice, that would be most likely the way I would tackle it. Then as far as sitting down, I would give him drills. I would give him homework. I would probably have him go to my website and look at some of the drills that I have on there as well as kind of homework. And then I would say to his parents, I'd like to see him at least once a week, if not twice a week, and then, go into the short game from there.
Yeah, well said. Now, Katherine, as I mentioned, I'm going to sort of have you handle the physical side of things. One of the reasons why I wanted to sort of paint a little bit of scenario was just to give you guys a general idea of the player that you'd be dealing with. And he's obviously indicated, because he is athletic, obviously has an interest in golf, and maybe, depending on how well he does, is interested in competing. So Jon's laid out a very interesting strategy, if you will, to sort of get him going on the golf swing side of it. But the physical component is important as well. What type of physical training do you think could help Brant capitalize on his current athletic abilities, but at the same time allow him to tap into his full potential? He's already obviously athletic, so he's out there active and doing things. What would you recommend for somebody at his age level? What type of a programming or design would you sort of put together just to tap into what he's already doing, but also maybe help him build and develop as he goes on?
Well, I love a lot of things that you said about, trying to help him as he continues to play in the game. And the question that you're asking me has to do with his physical fitness. The way I train my athletes has to do with a complete athlete. So I look at not just the body, but I look at the mind. And when I'm thinking about this young kid named Brett, I'm looking at him as an empty canvas, where we have the opportunity to paint a picture of success for him, which is, again, not just the body, but it's the mind. And it's interesting. I was just listening to the radio earlier today, and a woman called in and was talking about her 14-year-old son, who's a fairly highly competitive golfer, but he throws his clubs even when he's winning. And what should the approach be? What should the approach be with that? So when I look at juniors, when I look at any athlete, I look at how can I train and cultivate the complete athlete. And so I'll just step back for a moment. I love the fact that he plays baseball. I personally, I don't teach golf. I'm a golfer, so I won't even address the slice because that's not what I do. My job is to make sure that I can create an efficient, effective, repeatable swing from the physical standpoint, but also have the ability to reset his mind as he moves from shot to shot. And so let me just talk about the physical aspect first. One of the things that I see with junior golfers is actually an issue with hypermobility, where they're too flexible. And so I would look at creating some type of strategy that really focuses on the integration of the muscles and the joints as he moves through these movements. I would consider putting him on a program that would help him build strength. The other thing that I see a lot with this demographic, which is kind of surprising for people because we think about, the issue is poor posture. So we think about posture with older golfers as having a C posture because they've sat at a desk for 40 years. But, what I'm seeing with a lot of juniors is because they're on their smartphones and computers and iPads so much, there's almost an epidemic of poor posture among juniors. And so when you think about poor posture, you're not just looking at the biomechanics of the swing, but you're also looking at the effect on the nervous system when the spine is not stacked and he can't properly create an effective, deep diaphragmatic breath. So now you have a sympathetic nervous system that's activated. Then you're also facing the inability to manage his energy. And then you've got posture from the golf biomechanical scenario. So to kind of recap, what I would do is I would work on stability, strength, posture, and definitely work on focus. Teaching him to be able to, be present when he's standing over that shot and let go of whatever the outcome is. I think it's important for all golfers. I mean, it's important for all of us. I'm sure no one listening has ever had a 3-putt and been angry walking to the next tee box. But, if you have, you understand the importance of letting go of that last shot. Right.
Yeah, that's so true. Very well said. Thank you, Thank you, Katherine, for that. You know, the key thing is, and Clint, I'm going to get to you in just a second. The key thing is, and why I wanted to sort of paint a scenario for you guys as well, is just to wanted to give you a little bit of a background, give you the approximate age group that we're talking about. But the key thing here, and I really like that, Jon, both you and Katherine thus far have sort of tapped into this, is that this is really a canvas that you're working with. Here's an opportunity, even though he's athletic in other sports, he's still fairly new to golf. And, you know, so he's got a little bit of the bug. You know, he wants to get out there. He's already expressed an interest of being competitive. So we don't want to quash that by overwhelming him, but at the same time, we want to be able to guide and sort of nurture that process along. And one other way I think that you want to start out, especially with a new canvas, is what Clint's going to talk about, and that's you know, really having a short game is critical for any high-level player, as we've seen here in the recent the British Open. You know, having a stellar short game is critical. So Clint, my question for you is, what are the key areas, in your opinion, based on what you know of Brent, should he be focusing on to sort of groove a solid short game? Because that's what's really going to save him out in the golf course.
Well, I'm going to take the kid to the pool, have a little fun first. You know, he's only 6 years old. You know,
exactly.
And you know, that's all right. I mean, you know, I kind of have an opposite feeling about a kid that's 12 years old. I want to talk to his parents for a minute. I want to find out if this kid wants to be a golfer or does his parents want him to be a golfer.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll give me an indication of what his commitment level is going to be to do what I want him to do. And we all know that when you get these juniors out there, they're most of them are ready to go. They're highly competitive. You know, I want a commitment from mom, dad, and the player that says, okay, if you really want to be good, I'm going to spend my time with you. But here's where we're going, is that I want to evaluate the kid first. I'm going to use a program that how many 3-footers can you make? I want to see I want to baseline him, because if he's going to be competitive, the first thing he's going to be competitive with is with himself. You know, are you going to be in a hurry to get better, to be a great player, or are you going to be patient and learn as you go and accept failure and success at the same time? Because we're going to have that. Once we've baselined him and we understand where he is fundamentally, you know, how's he moving the club and his body through the space in his short game? Does he understand that there's more to playing a short game than hitting a flop shot that he sees on television every weekend? So once we've got him baseline, we understand that we've worked fundamentally, I then am going to start trying to prove to him that the mechanics are okay. Like I use a tee drill. I put a tee in the green about 18 inches in front of his ball, and I ask him, can you hit that tee? Sure he can. So therefore, his putting mechanics is good enough to put it on the line he's going to choose. It's not about hitting it on line. It's about picking the right line. And if I can get him convinced of that, then I can start working with him to make him a player versus just a hitter. Because you see these young kids, they can hit it. I mean, they're, like Katherine was saying, they're flexible. They can wind up on it. They can hit it. But very few of them have the intuition to be a good short game, have that imagination we talk about all the time with the great champions of our game like Ballesteros and Woods and Spieth here lately. You know, their imagination on what to do with a particular situation is the difference between them and some of the other players. They all can chip and putt. They all can pitch the ball. So that imagination and understanding what shot pattern may fit this scenario to give you the best odds is really important to start developing in a young player from the very beginning. And that's where we would go with them. I mean, it's real simple. Fundamentals first, imagination next, and then start developing that scenario of shot patterns based on certain situations that's going to give you the best chance. And that's where we would go.
And yeah, fantastic. Guys, you did a great job on that. You know, Clint, you're exactly right. You know, the examples you used of some of the players out there with some great imagination, I mean, there's literally thousands of people out there playing professional golf, but really when you water down the numbers as to how many of them really sort of rise to the top, like a Jordan Spieth, a Tiger Woods, and Ballesteros, and there are others out there, but a lot of them are great hitters of the ball, but don't necessarily have the imagination when the pressure's on to be able to create the shots that they need to get themselves out of that trouble. And this is why you get some players like a Jordan Spieth and others that you've mentioned that are able to sort of rise to the top. Great job, guys, on that one. The
Can I
second
just
scenario
say something real
is
fast,
a little bit
Ted?
different. Yes. Yep. Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say I love what you said about the imagination and the creativity. One other thing is, as I don't know if you all know this, but I've been teaching yoga, Pilates, and meditation in Major League Baseball for 14 years, and I work for 8 MLB teams. And one of the coaches that I work with, I'll just keep his name anonymous just to protect him. But and when I sat with him one day, and I said, "What is? Give me 3 things that you're trying to get your players to do." And I thought he would say something around, run faster, throw harder, whatever it might be. And he said, the number one thing I'm trying to get my players to do is to be creative and to trust themselves. And that really ties into what you were talking about. I think that was a really stellar point you made.
Thank you. And Clint, thank you for bringing that up as well. No, that's a great point. Yeah, that's
sure.
Yeah, I don't want to take credit for Clint, but because I'm.
You can take all the credit you want. Go ahead.
Said. No, I'm fine. But no, that's a great point as well, Katherine, to bring up. All right, I want to move on to the second here because I want to make sure we get all 3 of these in tonight. I want to give you all each ample opportunities to talk on them. The next scenario is a business owner. Her name is Janet. We're going to call her Janet. And she's a newbie, never played golf, maybe picked it up, a club up or something on a range one time years ago, but certainly not played the game. She's in, and I'm saying this even though she's fictitious, I'm saying she's between 45 and 50 because I know firsthand you never divulge a woman's age. So she's somewhere in that realm, just to give that. Never played, as I said, but wants to learn the game as a way to generate some new clients and basically to add it to her business repertoire. So that's really where she's coming from. John, I'm going to start with you again. Being new to the game, Janet needs obviously to learn the basics, but given her late start is looking to generate an ability to be able to play with confidence. So she wants to learn enough, to absorb enough at this stage of her life to be able to play with confidence. Not really looking to compete, but rather to be able to hold her own on the golf course. So what would you suggest for a player or a new player like Janet?
Ted, I get players like Janet all the time. When I was at Grand Cypress, I was working in a resort, and I had women all the time who came to me who said, I'm here on business, the convention is here, they're all out playing golf, and I don't know how to play golf, and I need to learn how to play golf fast. And so in that scenario, that must have happened to me several hundred times in the 20-year career at Grand Cypress. And the first thing, obviously, that I don't do any video with someone like that. I get them. I try to, first of all, get the intimidation factor that a lot of new players, whether you're female, male, a lot of adults, especially when they come, and even kids, when they come and take their first lesson, there's an intimidation factor. I let them know that this is a normal part of my day. I don't just work with tour players. I work with beginners. So I want them to feel comfortable. Obviously, I'm going to go over the fundamentals of golf and the full swing and the short game. And I try to brush stroke and hit a lot of areas where I'll go full swing and putting because I know they're going to have to putt. I know they're going to have to hit the ball. And most likely in a lot of these scenarios, especially if they're playing in business golf, there's a lot of scrambles they're playing in. And I try to emphasize to them, hey, if you can make a putt, your team is going to love you. Or if you can learn to hit your driver because you're going to be playing the front tees versus where the men are playing, if you can learn to hit a drive out there, you're really going to help your team. And then I spend some time going over rules and etiquette because when you're in business golf, you cannot go out on that golf course and not know some basic rules and some basic things about talking and where to stand and safety and all the things that And I find that that most of the women, especially that I teach that are new, are very receptive to that. They're just more concerned with not embarrassing themselves than they are in learning how to hit a 300-yard drive. So I really make an effort to do that, because as a PGA golf professional, that is part of my job. It's more than just teaching people how to hit the ball. You have to teach people how to act and really conduct themselves on the golf course.
That is an excellent point, Jon, because you're 100% right. That's something that I've heard. I do a lot of corporate golf, and I teach a lot of corporate types, and that is probably, and it's from both men and women, probably one of the top questions that I'm asked is, especially for new people to the game, is how do I handle myself out in the golf course? I don't know what to do. What do I do when I drive up in the parking lot? What's proper etiquette, that sort of thing. Do I tip or do I not? And they might not, a lot of the questions may not be specific to their physical golf game, but that's an important part of it, and that's something that we as instructors have to be able to handle those questions, as well as, how do you fix my slice, or how do you, handle a right to left break on the putting surface. So, these are things that we have to be well versed in as well. I like that the fact that you injected that into your response. Katherine, I want to move on to you as well. Again, welcome to handle the physical as well as the mental side of things. But I would imagine that strength training and probably some flexibility training, just because she's not used to the game, would be beneficial to help her achieve some of her goals. So what would you suggest for somebody, again, given her age range? I don't know we don't know what her necessarily physical limitations or what she's done thus far, but again, assuming you're starting with a fresh canvas, what would you suggest?
Well, one of the things that I notice with a lot of women is women have a tendency, because they don't really understand or have the ability to create a proper coiling effect where they're using their lower body. So they have a tendency to swing more up and down versus coiling. And, because we know that the golf swing from the kinetic sequence starts in the feet, the first thing I would do is I would teach her how to use the ground and feel the connection to the ground. In yoga, we use a pose called chair pose, which is basically where your feet are hip width apart. And, you sit back like you're sitting in a chair, and then you push your feet into the ground to bring your body upright. Number one thing I would do with her is that I would teach her how to use the ground. And then I would really work on her ability to create a more compact coiling, separation, disassociation from her shoulders to her hips, so that she can start to generate power. Because I'm hoping these gentlemen, as great golf coaches, would agree with that you have a lot of women that swing more up and down versus coiling. And the other thing, from the psychological standpoint is, she's 45 to 50 years old. She's a business owner. She's probably, having a juice on the way to the course. Her energy is very much floating around in the ethers. So we need to be able to get her grounded and feel the ground. That's something that I would do. The other thing is, as a new golfer, I would teach her how to incorporate breathing into her pre-shot routine. Because as a new golfer, they have a tendency to think about 10 things they need to do during each phase of the swing. And so if we can teach her proper breathing in the pre-shot routine, so that before she begins her takeaway, she takes a long exhalation and just feels her traps relax and the tension leaving her forearms and hands. Just that kind of thing to get her from being so mechanical, again, to being more instinctual, I think would be of great benefit to Janet. And she can call me anytime.
Yeah. Well, and so she should, Katherine. Katherine, I just want to add to that, and again, great answer, by the way. The other thing too is that I think is critical from the sort of the mental side of things is, especially for business owners. They come to the golf course and they've got 100 different things about back at the shop that they need to do, and they're bringing their work with them. And we understand, especially for some of you small business owners out there, that you want to be in the loop and all that. But turn your phones off, or if you don't want to turn them off, put them on vibrate, and instruct your staff, if you've got staff, that only important issues do they need to contact. In other words, you have to delegate a little bit so that you can go and give your full attention, because there's nothing worse than giving a lesson and every 2 seconds, well, I got to get this or I got to get that, because then they're not focused on the task at hand. So that's another area, I think, too, for somebody like Janet. They need to really make that commitment to say, okay, I'm going to do 100% focus on what I'm doing here at the golf course and not worrying about what's going on back at the shop until I get back there. I think that's critical
Absolutely.
as well.
And what you're doing, Ted, is you're just teaching them to be present. Be present not only during the lesson, but be present over each shot. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, exactly. And they need to clear their mind, and the breathing I know helps tremendously. I know that can help a lot sometimes, just to and alleviate some of that anxiety that we often bring, and it loosens up the muscles, relieves a lot of the tension that's in our bodies, and that's something that unfortunately I think certainly affects everybody, but I think particularly affects women more, because it's not just their job that they're focusing on their families at home as well. What the kids are doing,
Absolutely.
if they've got them, and that sort of thing. So they're multitasking. A lot of times that's sometimes a recipe for not a good experience. So we want to make sure that they're focused at the task at hand. Clint, haven't forgot about you, my friend. Short game obviously is going to be a big asset for her. Where should she spend most of her efforts? Again, she's not looking to conquer the world. She just wants to be a good enough player, as Katherine had mentioned, and John, not to embarrass herself out there. Where's she going to see maximum gains? Where do you want to have her focus on?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, obviously, again, you'd have to come back and to work with her to make sure she's fundamentally sound with a setup. John mentioned it earlier, proper grip, making sure that she can get the club face on the ball. That's the first thing. I would most likely put her on video to where she could see what she's doing and compare it to some examples to show her, okay, here's what you're doing, here's what we want to do. I think in a lot of cases when you got an older, middle-aged, hadn't played any golf, that if she's visual at all, that'll help her understand the concept that she's trying to achieve. All right. Once we're to that point, I think John pointed out, most likely the majority of the golf that she will play early on will be captain's choice, so she needs to be able to roll the ball with reasonable distance control, speed. Mm-hmm. I'm going to spend a lot of time with her working on knowing how hard to hit, getting pace and feel into her putting stroke, okay? Because we've all played in that captain's choice where we want her to putt first where we can see the line. But that line's important on how can you control your pace. And the second thing I'm going to work with her on is I want her to develop a get it on the green shot, probably with a pitching wedge or maybe like something around 52 or 54 degrees, that from around the green she can get that shot on the green. Okay? Yep. All right, so we're not going to develop that imagination 4-shot scenario we did with the junior. I want her to be really good at one pitch shot. We all know that if you loft it up in the air a little bit, you can get it on the green, and most likely it's going to stay the majority of the time. Now, it may not be going to get it the closest you might be able to, but for her level of success, from 25 or 30 yards from the green, if she can get that ball on the green, her confidence is going to go through the roof. That way, back to that old thing we've talked about many times, of getting good at the third shot. Get it on the green, 2-putt, you're successful. So speed, pace, get her to understand, a little bit about that, and also begin to develop that one, get it on the green shot. That's where I'd go with her.
Yeah, and I like the fact, and I was thinking along the same lines as you, Clint, with confidence. This is a player here that confidence is critical. And once she's able and confident, then that one shot is all she needs. That's sort of her go-to shot, making sure that she can get it on the green with relative success. And again, it doesn't matter. Over time, she can certainly develop, getting a little bit closer. But if she gets it on every time on the center of the green, doesn't matter whether it's above the ball, below the ball, or what have you, if she can get it on with confidence every single time with that shot, that's going to do wonders for her game long term. And it's going to, as you said,
play more too, get out there and get better at it.
Right, exactly. Great answers, guys. I just love this. Like my grade 5 teacher once said to me, she said on my, believe this or not, was on my report card. She said, "You have a great imagination." And boy, I had to whip these 3 scenarios up. I'll tell you, I had to have some good imagination for this. But anyways, all right. So we're gonna go on to our just a little self-patting here, guys. I apologize.
It's well done.
Our
It's
third scenario. Yeah. If she's not that she is, but if she's listening, thank you, Mrs. Finn. Anyways, our third scenario, as I mentioned in the beginning, is our senior golfer, and this is somebody who's left the game. And you'll understand a little bit as I read out the scenario, but has recently shown some interest in taking it up again. So we're going to call him Ron. Ron is a senior golfer who's approximately 69 plus years old. Left the game again about 10 years ago when his game started going south, and I don't mean that he actually came south to play, it just went south. But at his peak, he played to a 10 handicap, which is pretty reasonable, but dropped to a 25 plus when he left. Tried several of the new gadgets and theories out there, et cetera, but only seemed to add to his frustration. His reason for interest in taking it up again is obviously, I guess, some competitive juices, but also his grandson is now at the age where he wants to play and wants to get out there with his grandfather and spend some quality time. John, I'm going to start with you. Ron is looking, I guess, for some spark to reignite that passion that he once had. What would you suggest for a player like that? He's left the game, but has shown some interest in coming back, thanks to his loving grandson. What would you suggest, and how would you work with a player like this?
Well, the first thing I would do with Ron is I would do a little fact-finding. I would find out, why specifically did he leave the game? Was it because of didn't have the time, because of his job, because of he wasn't getting any better, he was getting worse? So I would spend some time there. I would certainly look at his equipment. In 10 years, there's been a lot of advancement, especially with hybrids and fairway woods. I would make sure that he's got the right wedges, fairway woods, and certainly the right driver. And I would probably be eliminating his 3 or 4 iron, or even his 5 iron or 6 iron, and maybe say, hey, your longest iron needs to be your 7 iron. So, in the last 10 years, I think that would help him right off the bat. Obviously, I've always said if you've played at a 10, we can get you back to somewhere in that ballpark. If you've been there, you know how to do it. There has got to be something either physically that, for a reason that he physically, maybe he has a bad back or something like that. I'm going to send him to Katherine, and I'm going to send him to her and say, we need to incorporate lessons, but you need to be doing stretching. You need to be on some sort of program if it's a physical issue. If it is a swing issue, then I'm going to delve into his full swing. The number one thing that I hear is I don't hit the ball far enough. So it's a combination of his swing, combination of his equipment, or a combination of his physical fitness. And most likely it's probably all 3 of those things if he's 69 years of age. So I would address each of those issues. Being the swing coach, obviously my expertise would be into the full swing, and then I would just look at, why is he not hitting the ball far enough, or, to go from a 10 to a 25 there's got to be something, and sometimes I get people that say, well, I only play golf 3 times a year, and I'm like, well, you got to play more golf. I mean, you're not going to get better if you're not playing enough. So I would do a lot of fact finding and be a little bit of a detective, because a lot of times the student will answer and solve the problem for you before they even hit a ball, by just asking them the questions of why you went from a 10 to a 25, Are you playing enough golf? Are you in good enough shape? Or is your equipment good enough for you? That's probably the areas I would go.
Yeah, and that's, again, Jon, thank you. That's a fantastic answer for that. And I would surmise probably the same as you. Again, without knowing all of the details, I would expect that it's probably a little of all of the above. Certainly the equipment is something you'd want to look at. There could be some physical limitations that have transpired. But I suspect that it's probably the equipment, probably lack of distance, and maybe some issues. It could even be some health issues and things like that. But the reason why I chose this particular scenario, and Katherine, I'm going to get to you in just a second, is this is a very common thread right now in the golf industry with players in that category. A lot of them are leaving the game or slowing down. Obviously, there's other issues. They're not fully invested in a career at this point. Some maybe have taken a part-time job just to keep themselves busy. But there's a reason they're dropping out of the game. Some of it could be health for sure. But a lot of it, I think, is out of frustration. And the reason why I threw into this scenario about the theories and the gadgets is one of the things that you can bet the majority of people that are looking for the next, and I don't want to say next new thing or next quick thing, are people in, I would say, at least 55-plus category. And I'm talking age-wise. The reason being is they're trying to regain something that they once had. So they're looking for whatever magic elixir or sauce out there. The young junior guys and gals out there, they're hitting it a mile. They may need some tweaking in that, but they've got the energy and so forth. And this leads me, Katherine, to what I want to get you to talk about is what you would recommend, Ron. I suspect that there's probably some energy issues here as well. He wants to obviously be a little bit competitive, I'm sure, get back out there. He wants to play with his grandson, so he's going to need that energy. What would you recommend for somebody in Ron's category?
Well, let me say that Ron represents about 70% of my clientele. I think what people don't realize is that almost 90% of the people that purchase our products and come to our classes, which we have in 26 countries now, are men over the age of 50. So, all of our classes are held at golf courses. They're not held inside yoga studios. So I'm extremely familiar with this demographic.
Right.
A couple things. First of all, and I love what you said about, that they're just looking to buy a better game.
Yes.
One thing is that I would obviously do a series of physical assessments on them. I want to do a history of surgeries, pain. When you have pain, does the pain come on when you're putting your shoes on before the first tee, or does the pain come on at 13? And I agree with what was said before. Almost every one of the golfers in this demographic that I work with says, I'm losing distance. And it's from a psychological perspective, it's a little bit demoralizing. When somebody is hitting the ball 60 yards past you, it's a bit demoralizing. So a couple things is, one, my objective first and foremost would be that person is playing pain-free. I would prescribe for them a very simple but effective dynamic warm-up that they need to do before they go out to play. It could just be 5 stretches, but it needs to be done dynamically. Obviously, golf is an explosive movement from a static position, so you're not going to do static stretching to prepare the nervous system for an explosive movement. So I would give them a dynamic warm-up. The other thing is I would prescribe 2 stretches that they should do every 2 to 3 holes, which they can do holding on to the vertical stanchion of the golf cart to stretch out their low back and their hips. So it kind of keeps them in the game. The last thing that I would prescribe to is something that they can do post-round. For a lot of guys in this demographic, at the end of the round, their hips and low back are aching, their knees are aching, their feet and their ankles. I'm sure you gentlemen can appreciate that because you're standing on the course for hours getting lessons, right? So, one of the things to do is to put your legs up the wall and your body along the ground so you're at a 90-degree angle. So what it does is it allows gravity to go from, and the blood flow to go from your lower extremities towards the head. That's a really great thing to do, obviously, post-round. I just want to tell you a very quick scenario. I had a client, I teach at a lot of Troon golf facilities. This was up at Troon North. He came to me for a series of yoga for golfers classes. His name is Mark. Mark is 62. And he said, He stood with myself and Doug Hammer, who's the golf pro there, who I teach with a lot, and he said, I'm done with golf. I've been playing since I was 10 years old.
Yep.
My back always hurts. I'm scrambling all the time. I can't play the way that I used to. I'm done. And I said, Mark, do me a favor. Commit to this 4-week session, which is 8 one-hour yoga for golfers classes. I want you to take 2 lessons with Doug, who's a coach that I work with as well. Fast forward 1 year later. He's playing 3 days a week. He's pain-free. He's bought $3,000 in Callaway equipment from Doug, and he shot par last spring.
Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's and you're exactly right, Katherine. You know, this is a common thing that we hear all the time. I know people personally within my own family and you know, that are up there in age, and you know, the same words come out of their mouth. I'm done. I played golf a long time. I enjoyed it. I don't enjoy it anymore, and it's because they don't feel like they can compete. The other thing too is stability becomes an issue as we get older. You know, as you talked about earlier in one of the earlier parts of the segment, is about feeling the ground. You know, something that a lot of people overlook. You know, John, you pointed out about, you know, equipment, you know, golf clubs and things like that. Golf shoes is another huge component, especially as we get older. You know, the golf shoes that you might have worn 20 years ago, that style may not suit you well when you're up in your 60s, as they did when you were in your 20s or 30s or even 40s. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me say something about that, Ted. The other thing is that everything starts in your feet. And as we get older and then we get in orthotics, you know, we can't feel the ground anymore. So I have a fellow degree in chain reaction biomechanics. From a chain reaction biomechanical standpoint, everything starts in your feet. I can actually I can tell you what's happening in a golfer's swing by doing a gait assessment. Because as you walk is as you stand is as you swing. So the feet, you're making a tremendous point here. When you have prolapsed arches and weak arches, and, you know, that affects your knees, and that affects your hips, and that affects your back, all the way up the chain reaction. And foot function is huge. I mean, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and the reason why I do is we all succumb to it as we get older, and you're exactly right. You know, the older we get, the feeling and the sensation that we have, even walking. That's why you see a lot of elderly people are very unsteady on their feet. And it's not because they've, you know, everybody's equated it to, well, it's, you know, poor muscle control and things like. It's not necessarily true. I mean, there may be some of that involved, but a lot of it is they don't feel the ground, so they're very uncomfortable and very unsteady. And this is something with good, you know, good orthotics, as you mentioned, good proper shoes and even arch supports and things like that can make a world of difference. So that's something. Clint, I didn't want to bypass you, so we got a little bit of time left. Obviously, Ron had a decent short game to be able to get down to even a 10 handicap. Any recommendations to regain some of that ability?
Well, I think John hit on it early on. You just have to sit down with this guy and say, okay, how did you used to play? Because it's obvious he's not going to spend a lot of time practicing. He wants to play, be out there with his grandson. So we need not to maybe teach him anything new. We just need to remind him of what he used to do well. And go back and say, okay, let's look at your putting. Well, that looks okay. This comes to some of the things we've talked about earlier about accepting that it's good enough. And at his age and getting back into it, you need to evaluate every position for him. How's your putting stroke look? Well, that was okay. Let's find the problem. You know, your chipping's okay. 100 yards in, you stink. So that's where we need to spend some time. You know. Because he's not going to want to hit 100 balls a day. And Katherine's right. I mean, you know, she's talking about me now. You know, I'm 60 years old. I mean, so you have to make those adjustments in order to be able to maintain, you know, like we've talked before. My objective at my age is to maintain what I used to do. Mm-hmm. You know, that's all I'm wanting to do. You know, obviously I'm a pretty good player, so I don't want to lose what I have. So I need to find the proper equipment for it. I've just changed my equipment not too long ago, made a huge difference. So you have to make those adjustments simply to maintain what you're comfortable in doing and what you'll accept as being a good round of golf. So everything they've said is absolutely perfectly true. I mean, and we do see a lot of players of this nature. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think posture too, as it's been talked about here throughout the evening, really with all scenarios, is a key factor as well, especially with some of our older golfers. Because their body, Katherine, as you pointed out, they're kind of slumped over from sitting behind a desk for 40 years or whatever it was they were doing. So a lot of times, even in their address position, it's no longer, they don't have the same angles that they did when they were in their 20s. So this becomes an issue as well. So sometimes through good, proper training and as you put with Yoga for Golfers, when you worked with your example, he was able to regain some of that stability and that posture that he, once had. It's certainly not going to come back 100%. I mean, he's, unless he finds the fountain of youth, but it's going to certainly show vast improvements, and it's going to help his overall game enough that obviously he went out and made a nice investment with Callaway. So, that just goes to show you that with the right kind of work and tweaking in that, even some of our older golfers out there that are thinking about cashing in the chips, as you will, there's a lot of options out there. And that's, guys, really why I threw in these three scenarios tonight on the Coach's Corner panels, because they're, even though I used fictitious characters, I wanted to sort of get some good, solid feedback from the three of you. And I can't think of a better panel really to have on tonight than the three of you for this particular segment, because this is really epitomizes so many people out there. Our junior golfer, as an example, Janet, our a business person, especially female that wants to get into the business world and or is in the business world but wants to get out there and add golf as part of her repertoire. Really needs a little bit of hand-holding and showing what to do and how to act out there, John, as you pointed out. And then, Clint, as you pointed out for her, really just sort of a one-shot to just get her to build that confidence and trust in her game enough that she'll want to continue on playing and practicing. So this is why, and obviously our senior golfers we just discussed. So this is why I wanted to talk to this, because this is questions that I get all the time, whether it's on the lesson tee or even as a result of doing this program. People always say to me, I'm this golfer or I'm into this category. So I wanted to talk about a few categories, and we're going to add more in the weeks and months to come. I'm going to throw some other scenarios out there for some of the other panels. But you guys did a fantastic job, and I'm going to go in the order again. John, if you want to do any quick plugs, go ahead. Katherine, and then Clint.
Thanks again, Ted, for having me on the show, and Clint and Katherine, it's been a pleasure being on with you as well. The best way, if you want to go, my website is jondeckergolf.com, and again, I spell my first name Jon Deckergolf.com. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And the book I've written, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, it's been doing fantastic. I'm very excited. I've been touring the country. I put 1,500 miles on my car last week in Virginia, going from
wow.
coast to coast. I've just been traveling all over the country. So I'm very excited about the book, and it is a Christian book. I have a Bible study now with the book, and I just had a church contact me today. I have 5 churches now who are doing my Bible study. So if you're out there in the audience and you have a men's group or a church, or if you want me to come to your golf club, I'd love to do it. You can reach me again at jondeckergolf.com. But thank you again for having me on the show, Ted.
Always a pleasure, John, and congratulations. The book, I know, I've been following a lot of your posts and tweets and that, and it's phenomenal. I'm glad that the book is doing as well as it is, and keep up the great work. Katherine, how can the folks reach out to you, and anything special that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, well, first of all, again, thanks to you, Ted, and gentlemen, it's an honor to be on with you. I love your insights, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. My website is Yoga for Golfers. It's yoga, F-O-R, golfers.com. I am also on Twitter at Roberts Yoga. I'm on Instagram at Yoga for Golfers. I think the thing that I'd really love people to do is if they've never done Yoga for Golfers and they're looking for the types of things that I've been talking about on the show, on the website we have something called the Golfer's Profile. If they click on the golfer's profile, it will ask them about 15 questions, everything from their strengths and challenges on the course to fitness levels. And based on that, they will then receive instantly in their email 10 free video tips that are designed specifically for them. And it's a really great way to start if they've never done it. Also, we have a number of instant videos that are available for sale. We have 2 that we just launched. One is called Developing a More Balanced Swing, and the other one is How to Create More Endurance Throughout Your Round. Those are new and pretty exciting. I travel. I'll transparently, I don't drive 1,500 miles, but I respect someone that does. So I'm happy to fly to your club for an event. I do a lot of private events, a lot of corporate events, and work side by side with golf pros. And it's a very powerful experience to bring the body and the swing together. So you can contact me through the website. And again, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you as well, Karen, and thank you for not adding to the ever-growing road rage that's out there by taking flights when you can. So thank you very much. Clint, go ahead.
Yeah, it's cool. Dad, everybody knows it's ClintGolf001 at yahoo.com. They can get a hold of me anytime. And I don't travel at all. I just stay at home, and let people come to me and have fun with folks nowadays. It's wonderful to be on the show again with Jon and Katherine. I was just looking at your website, and I hope everybody at my age or maybe a little younger, a little older will go to your website. I was just looking at it. It's wonderful. And I'm going to
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to dig in on it a little bit. Maybe that'll help my ailing back, maybe. So we'll see how it goes. But again, Ted, it's been wonderful. Whenever you need me, just give me a call, and hope everybody gets out and plays some golf.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you, Katherine and gentlemen. As always, again, I appreciate very much you giving your time. You guys did a fantastic job tonight. It was very interesting discussion, and I knew that I would get the answers that I got. And I hope the listeners out there that may fall into one of the categories, or even if you don't, there's some great information. Visit their websites, as they've mentioned, and you can't go wrong. Guys, have a great evening and a great weekend, and I look forward to you guys joining me again next time on the Coach's Corner panel. Thanks, guys.
Look forward to it, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, that was Jon Decker, Clint Wright, and Katherine Roberts joining me here on the Coach's Corner panel this Thursday. Just going to wait for a few minutes as my next guests come on board. As I mentioned, my special interview guest this evening on the second half of the show is the team from the Sports Science Lab up in the New York area. They're going to come on and we're going to talk about all kinds of good things, and I'm going to see if I can learn, which hopefully won't be too difficult, but hopefully I'll be able to learn some great tips and ideas from them as well, and about what they do. But while I wait for them to come on board, let me just remind everybody that we are live, of course, every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on Golf Talk Live. And the best way to go is go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or just type Golf Talk Live up in the search key, and that will bring you there. And if you're able to listen during the live broadcast, which again is 6 to 8 p.m. Central, or 7 to 9 for those of you, on the East Coast, and that's 4 to 6 for you under Pacific time, just go to that link. Or you can go to Stitcher.com or iTunes.com, and under the podcast section, again, just type in Golf Talk Live, and that will take you there as well. And if you're not able to tune in live, just scroll down into the on-demand section and listen to whatever episode, whether it's tonight's episode or any of the previously aired episodes. They're all there in their entirety. So make sure you do that. And don't forget to join Cindy Miller and I. It's LPGA professional Legends Tour player Cindy Miller each and every Tuesday on the blogtalkradio.com network as we bring to you the Women of Golf show. Lots of great female professionals that we've had on the show, and many entrepreneurs and great ladies that are helping to elevate the game. I see that I've got, I'm not sure if they're all calling in together, but I've got my team from the Sports Science Lab, so let me just bring them on board, and we will continue the conversation here tonight on Golf Talk Live. Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Hi, how's it going? How are you? This is Matt from the Sports Science Lab.
Matt, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks. I think we're all calling in separately, so just waiting on a few other guys.
Oh, okay. So they'll be all right. So they'll be not a problem. So Matt, why don't you just, because I know there's a lot of you, so just state your full name for everybody.
Sure, it's Matt Reicher.
Okay. And Matt, one of the things that we're going to do is, and I'm going to give just a few minutes here. Maybe you can give a kind of an overview, a little bit about the company, just so that the listeners have a general idea of what the Sports Science Lab is all about, while we wait for some of the others to come on board.
Sure, we are a facility located on Staten Island, New York, that specializes in assessment, rehabilitation, and performance training for athletes and athletic population, people in an athletic population.
Now, you don't obviously just deal with golf, as I'm aware. You also deal with a lot of different athletes of different sport genres. So there's all kinds of athletes, whether it be baseball and soccer and things like that. But before we do that, let me just get you to let the folks know some of the others that are going to be joining us tonight. I wasn't 100% sure if everybody was coming or not. In the original email, I kind of suspect. So just who are some of the others that are going to be joining us on tonight?
Sure. We're going to have Rushi Shahiwala, who is our lead physical therapist and clinical director of the lab. He will be joining us, as well as Michael Greene. He's a certified biomechanist, and he's a performance enhancement specialist. And we'll have Juan Delgado will also be joining the call. He is a sports scientist. So he's really analyzing a lot of our data at the lab. Perfect.
I see that another one's ready. So let me just bring, as they come on, I'll bring them on board, and then we'll keep going through our conversation.
Great.
All right, good evening, and I want to welcome you to Golf Talk Live. Who do we have the pleasure of joining us?
This is Mike Greene. I'm the biomechanics specialist.
Michael, thank you for joining us on Golf Talk Live, and as I'm sure you're probably aware, Matt is already on board here. So, and again, we'll continue the conversation a little bit as everybody comes on board. I know you're all coming in a little bit separately, but not to worry. So, Michael, Matt has already sort of given an outlay of what the Sports Science Lab is all about, and a little bit of an idea of what to expect. What we're going to talk about tonight. Obviously, this being a golf show, we're going to talk a little bit about the assessment, if you will, and then we're going to talk about how you guys prepare and optimize for some of the athletes, and then, of course, the recovery. So we're going to talk about all three areas tonight on the show. So if you want to, let me before I get you to answer that, let me just bring on. We got another one here, so let me just bring them on as I said as they come.
Sure, absolutely.
Good evening and welcome.
Hi there.
Yeah, good evening and welcome. Golf Talk Live. Who do we have the pleasure of joining us?
My name is Rushi. I'm a physical therapist and director of Sports Science Lab.
Well, Rushi, thank you very much for joining us as well. Michael Greene and, of course, Matt Reicher is already on board. So welcome to the program. And we were just getting ready to get into the conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
What I wanted to do... Michael, what I wanted to do is I'm going to go back to you, and we got one more. So let me just see if I can bring everybody on as they're calling in, and then we'll get into so we're not getting so many interruptions.
Sure.
Hi, good evening, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. Who's joining us now?
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. My name is Juan Delgado. I'm a sports scientist at a Sports Science Lab in New York.
Juan, thank you for joining us, and we've got Matt, Michael, and Rushi is already on board here, and as I said, we're just as each of you come on. I think we've got one more? Is that correct, Matt?
I think that's everybody.
No, we are all four.
I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay, we're good. All right. So. Obviously, gentlemen, as you know, this is a golf program. So I know that you, as I was mentioning to Matt when he first came on board here, that you cover obviously a lot of different genres in the sports arena. But obviously, for the benefit of my audience, we want to focus on the golf. So I don't know who wants to start with this, but let's talk about the assessment. So talk about some of the assessment first, and if you don't mind, just for the initial conversation, just state your first name before you comment, and you don't have to do it for every comment, but just initially so we know who's jumping in.
Sure.
Bruce,
you want me to take
I will start with the physical assessment, and Mike will go over. Mike will tell you more about the detail how the sports science works for any athlete, including the golfers. And then I will go through more detailed assessment for the golfing and all that stuff, like what we do at the lab. So, Mike, you go ahead and start.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. The reason why we're doing it like this, and just to let Michael talk, is because the assessment that we have is composed by different assessments, from the neurotechnology to the physical therapy to basic assessments for physique, right? Physical assessments. So that's why we all have different areas, and Michael is going to give you an intro of all the lab, how the lab works, how we do different things with the assessment, and how it's separated in different parts. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
perfect.
All right, Michael, go ahead.
Hold you, Michael.
The floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, guys. So basically, in the sports science lab, we look to really objectively identify areas of strength, areas of weakness, and areas of inefficiencies and movement patterns that are often overlooked or sometimes invisible to the human eye. So we use a combination of sports science technologies and state-of-the-art equipment to really objectively identify what makes the athlete. And so starting with the golfer or any other sport, what we do is we like to assess the athlete from the feet all the way up the kinetic chain, and even looking inside the brain a little bit in terms of neural efficiency, timing, rhythm, coordination, as well as sensory motor skills. So to bring you through a little bit of what we do, we'll basically start with the feet, identifying pressure and imbalances with regards to ground reaction force. And it's a big issue nowadays. We see a lot of golfers going down with a lot of injuries, and a lot of these injuries we don't necessarily know when it's caused or where it's caused by, although it may rear its head in one capacity, maybe in a training session or after a hard day out on the course. But it's the repetitive use on the body, especially as we get older, where we really want to really take an objective look into ourselves as athletes, and that objective understanding will allow, or it allows us to really train the athlete in a better, more smarter, more efficient capacity. And so moving on from there, we do a full musculoskeletal orthopedic evaluation with the physical therapist, every golfer or any athlete that comes through the lab. And basically trying to, again, just identify the areas of strength, the areas of imbalance. After those assessments, we'll sort of bring the athlete up with the full gait scan, trying to identify if there's any inefficiencies in the way the athlete moves and how that correlates on the course, how that correlates on the swing. One of the assessments that is very vitally important for us and with the golfers is our neural efficiency assessment. So the ability to not only be functionally sound, and we'll bring the athlete through, like I said, a full functional movement screen with 3D motion analysis and surface EMG technologies. This 3D motion analysis technology allows us to really pinpoint areas where the golfer may be at risk for injury or may be losing some energy production via training or via swinging. Going back to the neural efficiency, that is something that we look into because it gives us an indication of the athlete's timing. And timing is responsible for everything that we do. So with regards to consistency of mechanics, with regards to attention, concentration, with regards to being able to block out distractions, that all has to do with the brain's really internal clock. And we'll assess that via training, and then we include it in our training programs. And another part of our assessment that I think is extraordinary, especially for the golfers, is the sensory motor skills. So, for example, eye-hand coordination, depth perception, contrast sensitivity, all of these little things really could fine-tune, can make or break the golfer or any athlete for that matter. But objectively identifying where the athlete stacks up in comparison to other athletes throughout the country or even throughout the world who have been tested on some of the equipment that we use really gives a good insight into what the athlete needs to work on.
Excellent.
well
Rushi, would you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
no,
Rushi, would you mind explaining a little bit?
Yes, but this is Rushi, physical therapist. Just to add a few things on what just Mike mentioned, that all the athlete comes in, we look at the macro perspective, we look at their body. So being a therapist, I usually start with the basic posture. I see how they're standing when they are in the golf swing position, how their position is, how much rotation in the head they have, how much rotation they have in the upper back, lower back. The most importantly, the hips and the shoulder, because that's main creating powerhouse for the golf swing. I check the position of their feet because that, again, impact how they're going to hit it, how far they're going to hit it, and how efficient they will be. I make sure that I medically clear them first, making sure they have no arthritis in the hip or knees or ankle, or if they have prior surgery, whether it's back or hip or could be anywhere. So my basic stuff start with asking more and more questions about their medical history, their personal history, their mind status, what they come here for. Then looking at the postural assessment is the number one key factor. We do the range of motion analysis by using our 3D myomotion testing, which just Mike mentioned. Also, I use my physical measurement and testing tool as well, just to get the clear answer so we're not missing anything. And checking the flexibility of all the muscles, as you know, that being a tight hams quadricep, which is your thigh muscle, or having the problem with your tightness in the latissimus dorsi, which is the back muscle, that's going to create the big impact on how you're going to move it, and it'll put you in a more high likely position of having injuries later on as well. Being in the golfing arena, the main thing is physically we focus on flexibility and strength part. So every component assess it personally, and I write my report and I delegate my report to our team, and then they go for more assessment, as Mike mentioned, about how their weight transfer is while during the golf swing. We also do the video analysis of the whole golf swing, and we break all the component of the swing in the various frame-wise, so we can see exactly how is it correlating with the surface EMG and the myomotion, which we just mentioned, and how exactly their body pattern is, how is their curvature in the neck or the back or the hips is. If something needs to be changed, we don't tell them right away. We usually write very detailed report, and then we discuss as a team. And then we usually involve pro golfers if they have any trainers or somebody, and we just try to tell them that this is something you should work on. So we make sure that even though we analyze everything, we don't step in their toes as well. So we let them do it. We are not correcting their golf swing. We just finding out their inefficiency and the movement pattern deficit or strength and flexibility, their vision, perception, their coordination, and etc. And we just work as a team with the pro golfer to make that golfer better in what they are doing it. And Juan, I'll give it to Juan. He's the one who does most of the brain and the vision analysis, so he will go a little bit more. Unless if you have any question, you can ask.
Juan, let me just jump in real quick before you go.
Please go right
ahead. I do have a question. For you guys, just as a general, and I don't. It doesn't matter which of you feels best to answer it. Juan, you may be able to answer this. During your assessment process, do you have a baseline? And I'll give you an example. Let's say you've got a 30-year-old athlete, a pro golfer that comes in. Do you have a baseline through the various testing modes that you're doing, that you do a comparison? And the reason why I ask you this is because obviously we're all uniquely different, shapes and sizes and physical abilities. Do you have a baseline that you compare it to when you're doing these different processes, or Go ahead.
Right. We do two different way again. I have baseline data of all the physical findings. So how much motion you're supposed to have to be a better golfer, or if you have any arthritis in the knee or hip or somewhere, what you should expect realistically in order to create the better swing force and all that. So I have a baseline physical part. Now Juan has a baseline of all the related technology. So he will talk to you about that now. So Juan, go ahead.
Okay.
So one of the things that we do, one of the things that differentiates us from everybody else is we take every variable possible into the evaluation and training. Just like Rushi is saying, all these little differences, whether it's age, whether it's osteoarthritis, whether you have whatever it is, that is taken into account. Another thing that we use a lot as a comparison is neural efficiency, just like Michael mentioned in the beginning. Yes, everybody's different, like you're saying, right? One of the assessments that we do in neural efficiency is we actually check on your rhythm, and we also check on your tempo. As you know, tempo is very personal. Everybody is different in terms of tempo. You can be a slow tempo, fast tempo. But the one that remains constant is the rhythm, right? And it's very important for a golfer to have this too. They're not the same, but they work with each other. So what we do is go ahead. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. So what we do in part of the assessment in neural efficiency is we take timing. We take a timing exercises. We take timing assessment to see how good they can be, how early, how late they can do in terms of timing, using different auditory cues, right? At the same time, we do something called sensory motor skills. There actually is a lot of eye-hand coordination, depth perception. Basically, to see they can actually discern distances on golfer, because that's very important to see which drive you're going to use, right? And all these assessments, they have their own, and we have our own baseline, right? And they're compared with different areas, different athletes all over the place. This database that we have is actually in the millions of pairs of athletes that we have, and whenever that athlete is being assessed, it's compared with that database. So yes, we do have baselines for that. Mike, I believe you have something to say about that, because we work together in that matter as well.
Let me add up. This is Rushi again. Each technology have their own database, and more athletes we see in the same field, whether it's a boxer or the golfer, we try to collect our own database as well, and we try to compare it with the pro golfers or the amateur golfers, whoever is using that technology. And what is their current level or goal, the numbers you are getting it, and we try to compare it. So we have a huge database for various sports field, including the golfers, for all the technology. Plus, Matt will put some lights on some Y balance testing as well, which, Matt, you can talk about it. So, again, that has a huge saved database depending on your age and gender and your level of the athleticism and all that stuff. So, Matt, you can talk about a little Y balance and FMS testing. Hello?
Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Hi, guys. Sorry. We utilize Y balance and FMS to really rule out any asymmetries the athlete might have or imbalances from right and left side. So it's a functional test based on lower motor control and flexibility. Gives us a percentage of movements between the left and right hemispheres of the body, and with that we can actually see a difference. And the research has shown that if the percentage difference is greater than a certain number, the athlete is at risk for injury. So we will go ahead and use that in our workout plan and protocol and try to correct any of those imbalances that we might find.
Let me ask you guys a question. Speaking of workouts, we're going to move into the, how you prepare and optimize some of the data that you've gotten through the different various assessments that you've just done. with your athlete.
Hello.
What I want to ask you is this. Obviously, there are exercises and strength training programs that you guys put together that are conducive or helpful for somebody that wants to improve or elevate their golf game. They're obviously going to differ from, say, another sport that maybe wants to add more bulk or whatever, or speed. Speed is good in golf as far as transitioning from the backswing to the downswing, but you don't need a runner's legs necessarily to do that. So when you put together these different plans and programs, and I'm going to let whoever wants to start things off with that, and then we can continue on. When you're putting these different programs together and that, how do you decide which program, again, going to the theory that we're all different, how do you know which is going to optimize this player over here or this player B as an example? How do you know which to do so that you're not sort of encompassing everybody under the same umbrella? How do you differentiate each player?
Yeah, this is Mike Greene. I could take this one. So that's a great question, and I think it's something that a lot of strength coaches or trainers per se sort of overlook. Based on our proprietary global athletic assessment, that global assessment will sort of dictate where the athlete is in their training program. So once we've really objectively identified where the athlete is, the first step is getting them from a stabilization point of view, because most, like I was saying, most strength coaches, most trainers, they miss the phase of stabilization, endurance, and the athlete winds up lifting, although they want to get bigger, stronger, faster, or swing the club harder. If they're doing those things on unstable joints, over time the body will break down, and it's proven to do so. So what we do is, based on what we find in our global athletic assessment, and as well as the athlete's goals, and based on what they tell us, we develop a really customized training program to optimize the athlete in the most efficient time capacity possible. So, for example, let's just say for whatever reason we want an athlete or a golfer comes to us and they say, well, I feel like I don't have as much power on a drive as I used to have from years ago. That assessment will really give us an indication of, okay, where are they at, what's causing them to lose efficiency throughout the swing, and what can we do to increase power. We have some really, really great tools in the lab that we use for training and assessment at the same time. And with regards to golf in general, the corrective exercise phase in terms of where these athletes don't move in a functional capacity, that's where it gets very, very specific to the individual athlete. And that's where no two athletes work out the same, because they're not made up of the same stuff. And even with regards to our sensory motor skills, the sensory motor skill component that we have is really state-of-the-art, and it's excellent in that it tells us, okay, the athlete is in the 50 percentile with regards to contrast sensitivity, comparing that golfer to other high school golfers of his age group and skill level. So that's where, again, it becomes more precise and targeted to the individual. But even with regards to just golf training in general, and something that we like to do very heavily in the lab, is making sure that the athlete has balanced rotational capabilities as well as balanced unilateral strength. If you're a golfer who swings righty, over time, and if you're not strengthening properly, there's going to be you're going to develop a one-sided imbalance. And that one-sided imbalance you take with you when you leave the course. You take with you into the weight room, take with you throughout everyday life, walking and sleeping and things like that. So making sure that the athlete has balanced rotational capabilities is really vitally, vitally important for spine-related health, hip-related health, and really all the joints. And in addition to that, what we like to do in our lab is train the athletes with an iso-inertial technology, in particular for any athlete who is rotational, or even our athletes who are sprinters in track and field. This iso-inertial technology is really revolutionizing the sports performance training world, because it teaches the athletes to produce force in a rotational manner, as well as slow that force down in the reciprocal motion. In doing so, it's sort of akin to you can only run fast as fast as your body will allow you from one side of the room to the other, with your body slowing down without crashing into the wall. Same thing with the golf swing.
Right.
If you can decelerate that swing and you try and swing really hard and swing harder than you could, if those decelerating muscles in the anti-rotation phase aren't as strong as the accelerator muscles, we see a lot of hip problems, we see a lot of back problems. So to answer your question, it's very specific to the individual athlete based upon the global athletic assessment. And then depending on what the athlete's goals are, that's how we can become very, very specific and target a training a program specific for the individual athlete to optimize their performance.
If may I add something to that?
Sure.
Would you mind if I add something to that really quickly? Remember that
sure,
at the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about one of the parts of the assessment Rushi was talking about is the 3D motion analysis. This analysis also is coupled or combined with EMG, a surface EMG. You were talking about you don't really need runner's legs, but you do need to have perfectly balanced muscles. You need to have very functional muscles. So what we do with the 3D motion analysis, and what makes it really specific to that particular athlete or particular golfer, that is not the same. John is not the same as Joe, right? What it makes it very individual and specific to this is we usually use the 3D motion analysis with the EMGs at the same time. So what we do is we see how those muscles are working. We're not seeing how strong they are. We're not seeing how big they are. We're not seeing how bulky they are. We're seeing how functional they are. And if this golfer has problems with functionality because one muscle is acting more than the other or is more active than the other, that makes a difference. And that's what separates us. That's what makes us an individual, right? So that's how we do these individualized, very specific protocols. It's not that difficult for us to discern how one person is different than the other because of this. All the data that we get from that is very objective. All the data is very individualized. So, no, we don't use the cookie-cutter approach. No, we don't use the same exercises for one than for the other. Not just because we can't see it, but because we have all the data in our hands, so we can see it specifically for one and the other. And if that answers your question a little bit better.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. The reason why I asked this is because, one of the problems in the golf industry for a long time with a lot of the new technology that had come out, and I'm going to say over the last decade or so, I think a lot of coaches, teaching professionals and industry types that got into the technology didn't necessarily understand its use and value at the time. And I think what happened was didn't really use the assessment. I'm going to give you an example. Obviously, through your assessment process and then moving into preparing a performance training program, you're going to prepare something different for a junior or what I would call an entry-level athlete because they're in the developing stage, they're in the growing stage, and so forth. Whereas on the flip side, if you were taking an athlete that's maybe 45, 50, even 55 that's still competitive, I would assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that their assessment is obviously going to yield different results and different levels of ability. So, again, you're going to customize and tailor based on that needs. The reason why I say this, I think, going back to Rushi, I think you might have said this earlier on, is one of the problems is that sort of cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all that went a long time in the golf industry. And this is what they're trying to and starting to get away from. So am I correct in what I just said, is that what your program is allowing is not only individualized from John and Joe, but also the different levels of athlete from age to ability, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yep. Whether it's immature versus some elite, some pro golfers, our assessment changes bit by bit. Even the technology we use for assessment, we have to see the athlete get their whole assessment, then we determine what technology we're going to use it, even to do our proper reporting and all that. We don't put 10 years old with the same exact assessment as the pro golfers. So we make sure that their level of athleticism, their gender, their age, their physical limitation, everything we put in account before we even before we even do the proper assessment with them. And same applies with the training too. Of course, depending on what you find and what their goals are, we make their plan as per their needs. Very individualized.
Exactly. So,
and
that's I'm sorry,
right.
That's the beauty of our assessment and the beauty of what we do. It's so malleable and it's so versatile that you can adjust it to their age, their level of athleticism, or the level of skills.
So if I understand you correctly, then obviously if once you're working with an athlete and let's say you've done the assessment and you've put together a plan, as they grow and develop later on, you can adapt and adjust to meet whatever their current needs are as well as what they were when they first came on board. Would that be correct as well?
Absolutely.
Right. So just to give you a little time frame, like when we make the program, we have different phase of programs. So they have a few sessions they can buy 12 weeks or 24 weeks or various time frame wise. So what we do is once they come for the first day of assessment, we make the whole report depending on findings and all that. After middle of the session, like after a few weeks, we reassess them to see where they are standing, and we compare all the report and data with their previous report, and then we make the necessary adjustment. If they see, okay, his strength is improved but his flexibility is still terrible, or his brain is not reacting as much as we want, then we start changing the program accordingly. So every few sessions we do our so-called reassessment, and mostly it includes all the technology as well as physical assessment, just to see where their missing link is. Unless if they're achieving goals, then we add up more stuff in there to improve their swing ability and their speed and control and all that. And if we feel this is something they are not meeting our standard with, then we'll put back in there. So yes, we do constant reassessment, and every part of our team member, they do their own assessment on every single time people come in anyway. But this is kind of something firm-based. We do it for all the athletes, yes.
We like to think that we are evolutionary and revolutionary.
Okay. I got it.
Please, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this let me ask you this question then. How long? Give me an approximate time frame. Again, I know it's going to vary with each individual, but through the assessment process, how long is that process generally? Give me sort of an average, if you will, to do a completed assessment on any athlete. You can pick and choose whatever you want. Generally, how long is that assessment for you to gather the necessary data before you move to the next phase, which is to prepare a performance training program? How long generally does the assessment process take?
Sure. So this is Mike, and I'll just jump in real quick. The assessment, depending on the athlete, depending on the sport, takes roughly 2.5 hours. But that's just us collecting the data. Once we collect the data, we sit down with, we have a team meeting on every single athlete. We sit down with our physical therapy, being Rushi, our chiropractic sports physicians, athletic trainers, biomechanic experts, sports scientists, strength conditioning coaches, and we all collectively analyze and comb through the results, and we develop a training program and training phase outline for each individual athlete. And then it doesn't just stop there. We're collecting data constantly. Every single time we train the athlete, if our technology in the exercise that we're about to perform has the capability of collecting data, we collect the data. And then throughout the training program, what we do is we like to reassess.
Mike, you're cutting off.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike,
I'm sorry,
Michael,
guys.
you're cutting out a little bit. There you go.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. So we like to reassess consistently throughout the training phase.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're cutting out again.
Yeah.
Oops.
No problem. So what he's trying to say is that every single session we're collecting data. So this is not just a one time that we're collecting all that information. Every single time that athlete comes, we see the progress. And every single time that they do anything with us, we evaluate that progress and we modify whatever we need to do, whether it's the protocol, what is the amount of repetitions, what is the amount of weight, what is the amount of exercises, different things. So it's a constant evolution of what we're doing. We understand that the athlete grows. We understand the athlete has different circumstances. Well, maybe he couldn't wake up well that day and he's tired, so we have to modify it on that. Or he's growing 2 inches, growth spurts at 14 years old. You never know. So you have to modify all those things.
Right.
So that's the beauty of what we do. It's that evolution and that malleability that we have with the data, always data collection, always changing protocols if it's necessary, always being able to meet the needs that that particular individual needs or has.
Sure. Can you guys hear me now?
No. Yeah, that's perfect, Michael. Thank you. All right, so let me ask you then the next obvious question is, now that you've done your assessment, you've worked as a team together to put together a plan, a game plan, if you will, for this particular athlete, and obviously it's going to depend on what level they go, whether it's a 4, 6, 8, or 12 or even beyond week program. How long are the sessions generally within each of the? So let's say, for argument's sake, if I was to sign up for a 12-week performance training program, within a given week, how much time am I dedicating to that particular week on average? Again, I know it depends. There's a lot of variables here, but generally, is it an everyday process? Is it a few days a week, or what is it?
Sure, depending obviously the individual athlete. For us, each session is roughly an hour long. You have to work on their warm-up stuff.
Sorry, Mike, you're losing again.
Mike, you're cutting off.
Yeah.
So just to answer that question, usually the session, this is Juan, by the way, the session is about an hour. It can always be modified of maybe an hour and a half, or an hour 15 minutes with the warm-up sessions. We will recommend to have at least, as a minimum, twice a week. Once a week is not enough. You'll see the results very, very long term. So the minimum that we recommend to do is at least twice a week. But we do have athletes that come here every day, and they do 1 hour. We have an athlete that came from Canada recently. He's a hockey player. He came with us, and he was actually working out with us 3 hours a day, 3 days a week.
Wow.
He came all the way from Toronto, and just because of that. So it's malleable in terms of time. But usually
now
it's
you
about
gotta remember other things too. In case if they're having some physical problem, like they have some restriction in the hip or restriction in the shoulder, or they have some sort of pain, like very common in the elbows or back or hips, then I do rehab. So you're gonna count that rehab part on the top of their regular training session. And if they are really bad in pain, then we hold the training session till their rehab is complete first. So I concentrate just on the rehab part, make sure they are completely pain-free and flexible enough to even do the regular golf swing, and then we start the training again. So a lot of time it changes depending on their physical problem and ailment, or whatever you call that, or surgery or any other stuff too.
So that's the
now,
this one again. I'm sorry, just to add a little bit more to what Rushi was saying. That's the ability that we have. This is not just a training facility; it's also a rehabilitation facility. So you just don't come here because you want to be better as an athlete, but maybe you have an injury as well. So we can also take care of that. It's part of our program as well. So it's very versatile what we do. It's very comprehensive, from chiropractor to physical therapy to training sessions, everything.
Yeah, and that's critical too, because I mean you will obviously have to have a well-rounded facility to be able to handle that. I mean, it's one thing to offer the training and those areas of program, but also injury is something that's going to happen with any athlete just by virtue of whatever sport they may be playing. Even in golf, you look at a player like Tiger Woods, who sustained many injuries over the life of his career, and has battled with recovery, of course. So let me ask you this, just one sort of final thing, and then I want us to move on to the recovery side of things a little bit. because you've answered about injury and things like that, but your training programs, let's say if you have an athlete that has a general workout routine or something like that, are what you proposing to sort of modify what he's currently doing or changing, or can they still, let's say you have somebody that likes to walk 5 miles a day and maybe does light weights or something like that. Is that something that you incorporate into your program, or is that something that you recommend that they do separately as long as it doesn't conflict with what you have in mind, or how does that work?
If you don't mind, what we do is we can modify everything and we can add to the routine you have. Matt, if you don't mind, would you mind adding a little bit on that in terms of the physical area or the training area? And I'll elaborate a little bit more on the neural efficiency and the brain training that we add to their routine.
No,
is that okay?
We know that a lot of athletes are serious when they come to the lab, and it's not their first time training. So
sure.
If they're used to doing some things are working for them, we absolutely will incorporate it, and absolutely are open to them doing their own things, as long as it's not something that's going to be problematic. So, yeah,
counterproductive. Yeah, as long as it's not counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish. Right. Okay,
exactly.
I got you there. All right, let's.
And another thing on that, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, Juan. This is Juan.
No, that's okay.
I think we lost Mike. Another thing that we add a lot, and that we had from the beginning, that we started mentioning from the beginning, is the brain training. You can have your physical routine, but what we can add is the brain training, neural technologies, different neural efficiency, working from your swing, like I was mentioning before, working with your timing, working with your coordination, things that you might not really pay much attention in the developmental stages of your training. For example, if you're younger, you don't pay a lot of attention yet to your tempo or to your swing or to your rhythm. So those are things we can also work on that. Another thing is, by using that brain training, we zone in on the specific or particular little aspects that maybe somebody that's already established, a 55-year-old like you were mentioning before, might not be that good anymore because of age, because of injuries. All those areas we can add it to the regular training they have. What we do is we do different kinds of brain training. We do the 3 different kinds of stimuli: auditory, visual, and kinetic. So we're trying to hone in those skills. They go from eye-hand coordination to, like I said, see how well you can see from distance. That can always be added to your physical routine. So the fact that you already have a routine before, or a team behind you teaching you how to be stronger, teaching you how to be faster, let's put it that way, or your physical aspects, that doesn't mean that you cannot train with us. That doesn't mean that you can get better. That doesn't mean you can improve.
This is Rushi.
Right.
Just to quickly add on there, suppose, just give you really kind of to the listener the example. Like, as we have a lot of teenagers coming too, they are involved in multiple sports, right? Sometimes I see the teenagers saying that, oh, I'm here, my dad wants me to play golf, but I just do it because it's kind of so-so, and then they play baseball and they are volleyball, and they are like, some days they come very tired and say, I don't want to do any performance training, I'm just too tired. So I say, all right, put performance training on the side for today, let's concentrate on the brain training. So we have like, on all those brain training software and our lab system, we have a lot of simulated games for the kids. So we create the environment like they are playing games, but it's like almost like playing the Wii or any other sort of virtual reality type video games. So they can engage very quickly without kind of getting fatigued, and it kind of put them back in the tempo again and say, yeah, let's play. And it's not the game only, but it's also helping their perception, their visualization, their attention span, their accuracy. So sometime it happens, and even though it's part of our every time they come and we do the brain training, but when they are super tired, then we just concentrate on the brain training or any kind of other part. So the physical part stays on the side. So yes, we modify the treatment day by day depending on their needs and their how they're feeling as well.
Yeah, and Right. Yeah, and you have to be able to adapt. All right, I want to move on because we're coming up to a close here real quick. So I want to make sure we have a few moments of that. But on the recovery side of things, Matt, I don't know if you want to start off with this a little bit, but how does the recovery? What's involved with that?
Yeah, we utilize several pieces of recovery modalities. One being whole body cryotherapy, which we found to have tremendous effects on our athletes. That's the one that we're really what we're striving with our recovery modalities is athletes come in here thinking that they have to work a week and more is better, and really that's just not the case. So we incorporate recovery modalities to help the body recover, but also just to kind of make the athlete inactive for a day or two. And that really has tremendous effects on the training that we do, is because if your body is not functioning at 100%, you're not going to perform at your best. So that recovery strategy we have really helps to expedite our training.
Well, and I think
we have
a lot
other
of people, let me just add in there.
machine is called the Mark Pro as well, which is very good if you are having any pain or kind of just to increase your lymphatic drainage. So if you stay and do multiple golf games back to back, or if you even do 18 holes, a lot of time the golf comes with some sort of aches and pains, whether it could be a hip because they know how to use the hip. A lot of people don't know how to use the hip, then they end up hurting the back. Then we have a bunch of modalities for that as well. We have something called the low-power laser therapy, which helps to improve their inflammation, pain. Again, Matt mentioned about the cryotherapy. That's number one thing. Most of the athletes, including golfer, loves it. After either going on the game or after hurting themselves, they just get the tremendous benefit of being in the cryotherapy. We also have something called pneumatic compression devices. So people who are like, suppose golfer, they're not using the cart and they're just walking and feeling, they get soreness in the legs and all that, or overusing their shoulder, their whole arm hurts. Then we have the compression therapy for the arms and the legs both, so they get the proper lymphatic flow and improve in their muscle soreness, which is so-called post-exercise muscle soreness or so. Is good for the pain control as well. Plus, again, if they are hurting, then obviously they do a lot of rehab modalities. We do soft tissue work, joint mobilization and manipulation, just to help them recover faster. If there is some temporary problem, like if they just hurt in one game but they really don't have any physical problem, then I just chiropractic or physical therapist go there and give the complementary treatment just to help them out temporarily. And if we felt like they have some long-term issue, then we tell them to come and rehab and get proper treatment done. So recovery is a major part of our lab. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's an incredibly important, especially when you're dealing with your higher volume athletes that are, obviously a PGA or LPGA player that's playing four rounds a week and multiple weeks in a row. They're going to be more susceptible to injury, of course. Even if it's a minor injury, it could, as Tiger has found out, could lead into a long term.
Big time,
guys. Very, very. Yeah, very, very interesting process that you guys have here, and it's very easy to see why there's you guys are enjoying a great success with it. I want to give you an opportunity to let the folks know if they're interested in learning more about the Sports Science Lab, where they can go, the website, and then we'll wrap up. I don't know who wants to do that. Matt, do you want to do that, or?
Fine, if you want me, I'll do it. No problem. You want to do it, Matt?
Yeah, it's the nysportssciencelab.com. We're located in Staten Island, and that's the best way to see what we're doing. It's going on our website. I think we also have other social media platforms. Juan, do you know them off the top of your head?
Yeah, no problem. So what you can do is you can check on at New York Sports Science Lab and on Instagram and Twitter. Our Twitter is NYSSL, at NYSSL. So you can actually visit us on the website at www.New York Sports Science Lab. You'll be able to see all the different technology that we use, all the different sports that we actually work with, and all the bios of the people that work there. So you can see who is there, you can see how we do things, and you can also give us a call back at 718-727-7466. And we're located in Staten Island, New York, just like Matt's saying.
And if you follow us on Instagram, you will be able to see the videos as well of how exactly our training works and different area, including golfers and all that. So, yeah, a bunch of information. Yeah.
Everything is on Facebook.
Perfect.
You can see all those videos on Rushi saying, Instagram, everything.
Perfect. Well, guys, I want to take this opportunity and unfortunately, Michael, I'm sorry that we lost you. I don't know if you're still listening, but you broke up a little bit there, and we apologize for that. I'm not sure what happened if it was on your end or on my end, but I want to thank Matthew and Rushi and Juan and, of course, Michael for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. Very interesting business that you guys have there, and certainly definitely cutting edge, as you've indicated tonight. And I wish you guys much continued success. And for those listening to the show, we'll give out that if you want to give out one more time, the website that the folks can go and check it out and learn a little bit more about that. I think it's just the way things are happening now in the athletic world is just that there's so much technology and information that's available. I think the more information that you arm yourself with as an athlete, the better, more well-rounded that you're going to be. And you guys certainly have a wealth of information available. Juan, go ahead very quickly again the website.
Yeah, sure, no problem. The website is www.NewYorkSports, with an S at the end, ScienceLab.com. And you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter as well, and New York Sports Science Lab. Our phone number is 718-727-7466. Please don't hesitate in looking at us. We'll be more than thrilled to talk to you and see what we can do for you. And I think I speak for all of us, Matt, Rushi. Thank you very much for your time, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you. It was a pleasure
to
be
this opportunity.
on the show, and anything that can help to help people and athletes, it'll be a pleasure of.
Well, not a problem. I know I guarantee you that many listeners tuning in tonight will be checking out your website for sure. So, but thank you again, guys. Have a great evening, and I look forward to maybe having you guys come back on. Maybe we can do a show in the future, maybe having you guys back again, and maybe actually bringing on an athlete and talking about some of the process from their perspective a little bit too. Maybe we can have some questions there coming. We'll talk about that at a later point. But again, thank you guys for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime. That'll be really fun to do so.
Thank you.
All right. Sounds good, guys. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. That was my very special guest this evening from the Sports Science Lab team, Matt Reicher, Rushi Shahiwala, Juan Delgado, and, of course, Michael Greene, who we lost a little bit through the process. Anyways, go to nysportssciencelab.com to check out their website. All the social media platforms, of course, are connected there, so you can check them out there. But it really is the wave of the future. I mean, there's just so much technology out there right now to help athletes play their best. And for those of you that might be listening and saying, well, I'm not really considering myself an athlete, but this technology can certainly be beneficial for some of us older golfers out there that maybe want to find out where our weakest areas are in our golf game. It's not just always about the golf swing. As we talked about a little bit on the Coach's Corner, these assessments are important both as a player but also as a coach to be able to understand this information. If you want us to be able to help you better, sometimes we need to dig in a little bit more and find a little bit more about you and what's ticking underneath the surface, if you will. So thanks for joining me, everybody, tonight. And as always, thanks to my special guests, the team from the Sports Science Lab. Thanks to the Coach's Corner panel, Clint Wright, Katherine Roberts, and Jon Decker. Thanks, guys, for doing a fantastic job tonight. And most importantly, of course, thank you to all the listeners from around the world for faithfully tuning in to Golf Talk Live each and every week. And as I've said so many times, it is an honor and pleasure to be able to put through this platform for you guys, and I certainly enjoy it each and every week. It's an honor and a privilege for me to do this, and I hope that you'll continue to come back and join me next week. A special thanks to some of the sponsors and supporters of the show, Mr. Jonathan Laird, southcoastgolfguide.com. Check out that website, southcoastgolfguide.com. You can find out more about some of the great tracks, if you will, if you're interested in coming down to the southeastern part of the United States, from Texas right over to the northwest part of Florida and all states in between. Some great courses here in the southeastern part of the United States. You can find them in the South Coast Golf Guide. Just visit the website. You can check out some of the information there, or you can request a copy of the guide sent to you if you're planning on a trip down there to the southeastern part of the United States, here maybe Florida or Alabama or Mississippi, as I mentioned, some of the other states. Or if you're already down here, just visit most of the local pro shops here in those regions. Will carry it. Edwin Watts, I believe, is one of the stores that carry it. So just check. But if not, go to the website, southcoastgolfguide.com, to learn more. And if you're interested in advertising opportunities in the guide, you can reach out to Jonathan Laird. He is the owner of the guide, and he'll be more than happy to set that up with you. Meredith Kirk from Meredith Kirk Golf. Go to meredithkirk.com. That's her website. Great LPGA teacher professional out in the South Carolina area, Myrtle Beach, of course, and she's always willing and eager to help you improve your game, so make sure you look her up as well. Nikki and Tiffany Litherland, thank you for all of your help to spread the word here about the program. Mr. Bernie Pinder from onticgolf.com, great line of customized putters. Sean Kelly, thank you, owner of linkedgolfers.com, and of course my friend over in Ireland, Mr. Peter Doyle from Doyle Golf Solutions. On that note, I'm going to bid you adieu, as they say, and I look forward to all of you joining me next week right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody and have a great weekend.